What's up, everybody, and welcome back to part 6 of my Jerome Buting Illusion of Justice and Inside Making a Murderer and America's Broken System book review. And what a beauty of a book this is. You can pick it up on Amazon, iTunes, bookstores, anywhere. I highly recommend picking up this book. He doesn't just talk about making a murderer, he goes over other cases as well, and it is brilliant. It is very, very good, extremely interesting. Pick it up. So part 6, here we go. We're starting out 5 days after Stephen Avery's arrest for Teresa Halbach. Wisconsin Senator Lassie announced he was adding a new element to the referendum. He was modifying the death sentence law so that it could be applied to someone that committed one murder and not just someone that committed multiple murders. And another senator proposed it also include people charged with murder, sexual assault, and mutilation of a corpse, pretty much making it specific to Stephen Avery's case. And this happened just 5 days after Stephen Avery was arrested. You're trying to tell me they weren't trying to do everything possible just to get rid of Stephen Avery as quick as possible. As quick as possible. They were changing laws specifically based on things he was charged with so they could attempt to give him the death sentence so that 16 years later this case wouldn't still be in the news. But they didn't get their way, and 16 years later everybody is still talking about how corrupt this case is. Dean Strang stated that Stephen Avery had become the poster boy for politicians pushing the death penalty referendum. And in November 2006, the death penalty motion passed. But it also states that the legislator ultimately did not adapt capital punishment. Jerome Buting talks about how in pre-trial, Judge Willis banned them from introducing other possible suspects and also limited their ability to mention things from the 1985 wrongful conviction. Pretty much meaning that they couldn't talk about anything that was going to help them prove Stephen Avery was innocent. They weren't allowed to say, he didn't do it, but this guy did it, and here's why. And they weren't allowed to really talk about all the corruption that took place in his 1985 case in the same county that is now charging him with murder. They wondered what venue would ultimately give them a fair trial after all of the publicity the trial has received in the media, even before it has gone to court. The trial would end up taking place in the Calumet County Courthouse. Manitowoc County personnel were told not to have any contact with the jury. I wonder if that actually happened. On February 1st, 2007, a pool of Manitowoc residents were summoned for jury duty. Jerry Buting states their primary goal was to find a jury that could apply the presumption of innocence to Stephen Avery despite all the pre-trial publicity, despite hearing what Ken Kratz said with absolutely no proof or evidence, what he said during his March 2nd, 2006 press conference. Instead of using a jury consultant, they ended up putting together a 15-page questionnaire that had 75 questions on it to measure the impact of the pre-trial publicity. Measuring how many people thought Stephen Avery was already guilty before this trial ever went to court and before any evidence was actually presented. Jerry Buting states that in 129 of the first 130 questionnaires returned, people had believed Stephen Avery was already guilty. And remember, this was before any evidence was presented in court. This was before anything had actually taken place. All of this was mostly based on a March 2nd, 2006 press conference that Ken Kratz gave with absolutely no proof. And most of what he said in that press conference was never actually proved in court. Jerry Buting states that jury selection did not start off well. The judge refused, this being Judge Willis, refused a motion to strike a jury member because her husband was a friend of Ken Kratz and they regularly went to dinner functions with him. And she had also previously met with Tim Halbach, Teresa Halbach's brother, who was a lawyer in the area, and stated she felt sorry for him. She was also one of the people that in the questionnaires stated that she felt Stephen Avery was already guilty. But Judge Willis thought this was okay and didn't strike this jury member from the pool. Jerry Buting states there were a lot of situations in where people were violating the judge's instructions to not watch anything on the trial, and all of these were brought forward to Judge Willis, but it didn't seem to matter to him. They were passed through anyway. So even though the judge told them not to listen to anything about the trial, not to read anything in the news about the trial, not to watch anything in the news about the trial, when this was brought forward, Judge Willis was like, meh, no big deal. They can continue on. Another juror stated that if they were backed into a corner, they would just go along with the majority. Meaning that if it came down to it and 11 people were voting guilty and he thought or she thought they were innocent, that they would just go along with it and be like, meh, I guess he's guilty. I don't want to be here forever. I don't like peer pressure. These people are telling me he's guilty, so he must be guilty, despite what I actually think myself. And Judge Willis thought that was okay as well. In the United States, you are supposedly presumed innocent until found guilty, but yet they're doing absolutely everything in their power to find you guilty no matter what. They are doing everything they possibly can, even when it violates the law. They're just passing it through, no big deal. When the jury was finally selected, it included a man's son who worked for the Manitowoc County Sheriff Office and another man's wife who worked at the Manitowoc County Clerk's Office. Again, super fair, super okay, right? And also the jury was not sequestered, meaning despite what the judge tells them to not watch stuff, they could go home at the end of the day, flick the TV on in their living room and see what actually went on in the courtroom. See what happened during the trial when the jury wasn't even in the courtroom. They could find out any information they wanted. The judge already made it painfully clear that he wasn't going to get rid of anybody for doing this, so why not, right? There was also a juror that was found out during the trial that was acquainted with David Remaker, you know, one of the people that worked closely with Andrew Colburn and James Link, and that was also okay with the judge as well. Clearly, the judge did not care about any of the rules he stated at the beginning of this trial. He was letting everything go no matter what. Such an unfair situation, not just for Stephen Avery, but for anybody in this situation. If it could happen to Stephen Avery, why couldn't it happen to you? If they don't like you, they're proving that they're going to do absolutely anything they can, and clearly did absolutely anything they could, even violating things that they said that were not okay, and when that was brought to them that it was going on, it was like, meh, no big deal. We'll just let it slide. So if it could happen to Stephen Avery, it could happen to you, and that should worry you greatly. If they don't like you, you are screwed. But that is where I'm going to end part 6 of my Jerome Buting book review, Illusion of Justice, Inside Making a Murderer, and America's Broken System. Tremendous book. Pick it up. Buy it. I love it. Woo! This is part 6. I'll be back soon with part 7. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I'll see you again soon.